Welcome to episode number 39 of Everything EOS. I'm Zack Gall, the in-house EOS disciple here at ICO Alert, the trusted ICO discovery platform. Visit ICOalert.com, the most complete calendar of all active and upcoming ICOs. And I'm being joined today with the founder and CEO of block producer Cypherglass, Rob Finch.
Thank you all so much for joining us for yet another episode of the longest running weekly EOS podcast, Everything EOS. Woo! You know the name. You've been here before. If you haven't, welcome. It should be a fun show. We sincerely appreciate the feedback and comments that we're getting about the show. We saw more great comments on YouTube last week. It gets us super excited, gets us super pumped up to continue doing the show. So if you do like it, consider leaving a comment or just like and subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, or wherever else you may be listening.
Or you can join, well, do all that stuff once. Well, first of all, so all of your subscribes, likes, and comments, don't stop doing them, because that's what kind of makes this video get recommended to other people watching other EOS videos or other crypto videos. So if we want to educate a wider community, do that stuff. But as of, 2 weeks ago now, we started the Everything EOS Telegram channel. You could join that at t.me/everything_EOS, or by visiting everythingeos.io. That'll take you to our Telegram channel. We just broke 350 members today or yesterday.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome, welcome. And there's some great conversations going there. It's like a who's who of the EOS ecosystem. We have the guys from Mythical Games, who just got invested by Galaxy Digital. We got a bunch of block producers. We got really smart people from the Talos chain, Warbly chain, Mainnet chain. Everyone who's who, come join us in the Telegram channel. We love to chat.
And before we get started, I do need to mention that this podcast is not sponsored. We're not being paid to talk about EOS or talk about our opinions of anything. But remember, as we're discussing our opinions about EOS, about open source software, just know that Zack Gall and I, both as a matter of disclosure, do hold EOS tokens. But please don't interpret our opinions as investment, legal, financial, tax, professional, or any other kind of advice. You should never listen to someone on the internet for what to do with your own money. So don't do it. Don't be stupid. Make your own decisions and do your own research before you make any kind of financial decision. So let's get to it.
All right. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing a major EOS VC announcement for an online banking platform, the EOS Global Hackathon finale that was just decided last Friday, some recent CPU issues, and more.
All right, so the biggest news in EOS this week by far is yet another EOS VC announcement. So if you're here, this is your first episode, you don't know what EOS VC is. It is a $1 billion, yes, billion with a B, dApp fund that's designed entirely just to fund EOS dApp. So if you're out there, you're building a dApp, you want to run it on EOS, EOS VC could potentially fund you. But we just got the most recent funding announcement, a project that they've said, hey, we're going to fund, which is actually a bank. So EOS VC, this is coming from Galaxy Digital, run by Mike Novogratz, one of the EOS VC partners, just came out and said, hey, we're putting a combined $30 million into Good Money, which is a new online banking platform that the people who deposit into the bank actually own. So if I go there, I deposit some money into the bank, I will get at least one share of equity, real equity in the bank. So I own it. I'm entitled to, determine what happens with the profits. And they're really trying to make a bank that's actually owned by the people who use the bank rather than just a few people at the top. So it's a pretty interesting concept, and I think has some, pretty broad implications for how it disrupts, the banking space.
I thought it was super interesting. So first of all, you could visit them at goodmoney.com. They already have a waiting list. I already signed up. I recommend all of you do too. But yeah, like Rob said, it's almost like with most banks, they take a percentage of the money that they have in it, and they'll invest their profits into other businesses. Like petroleum is the example they give on the Good Money website. But with Good Money, what happens is it's a profit distribution between the stakeholders in the banking platform, and that would be the users like you and me. And then 50% of the profits goes to like green, like organic, sustainable causes. So 50% of the profits go to the equity holders of the bank, and 50% of the profits are going to go to really good causes like green energy, or I don't have any examples of what those things would be at the moment, but it sounds super cool.
Yeah.
Like there's so limited information about it right now, but I obviously dug into their website to prepare for this podcast. And some of the interesting things I saw was it has a 2% yield, and it says it's FDIC insured. So there's a lot of stuff that's already happened before this announcement. This isn't some spring chicken. Like this could be like we look at Worbly as being a fiat on-ramp, and we don't know which chain Good Money is going to be on, whether it's on the mainnet, on Worbly, on its own chain. But it looks like they already have some sort of banking integrations if they have the FDIC insurance. And then if you go on their website, they also have, it says no ATM fees. So if there's no ATM fees, that means there must be an ability to use your account with an ATM, right?
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, the potential here is kind of, it's really crazy if you think about it. So not only are they coming in, they're shaking things up in the banking model. They're giving you 2% interest in a savings account, which is like 10, 20, 30 times more than you're going to get in the average account you open at some, too big to fail bank. But what's also cool about this is, I mean, they can extend, the control of the equity holders, which I imagine will be tokens on some kind of EOS blockchain. They can extend that to so many other things. They could say, hey, vote on this new mobile wallet design, vote on our new CEO or our board of directors or whatever. They can really give control of this bank to the people if they wanted to. So I'm super excited to see what happens with it. I think it's going to be awesome.
Interesting you mentioned that, because that's actually the utility of this equity token is it gives you voting rights for the sustainable causes that the profits are redistributed to. So whenever I'm talking about these green energy type like sustainable environment projects or companies, the token holders who are equity owners in this online bank are the ones who determine where that money actually goes.
That's awesome.
You play an active role in who is being funded by this bank.
Oh, absolutely. And I just signed up while you were talking about it. I jumped on the wait list because, I don't like banks. I still don't trust banks. I'll maybe trust this a little bit more than I trust other banks, but that's not saying much. But at the end of the day, everybody, whether you're in crypto or not, you still need a bank account to transact. My rent, the place I pay rent to, they don't take EOS for my rent. So I need to cash out to a bank account so that I can pay expenses and things like that. But to have a bank that is not only, on EOS in some way where I can vote, maybe I get a little profit from it. But in addition to that, to have a bank that is bullish on crypto, that accepts crypto, is something that I think the entire crypto community will be thrilled about. Because occasionally, your account can get shut down if you're transacting in crypto and you can't prove the exact source of income. They get a little freaked out with money laundering and things like that. And you're a Bank of America or something, and they'll close down your account. But I can't imagine Good Money, if they're running on a blockchain, would ever close your account for transacting in crypto. And even they could build in their own crypto custody service in the future. So if you wanted to store Bitcoin with them, don't recommend it. But if you wanted to, maybe you could, and that could actually bring people who wouldn't otherwise be in crypto into crypto just through this new banking platform. I'm
super curious to see future messaging coming out of Good Money, because I'm almost certain they're a U.S. Based company. I'm 100% certain actually that they're U.S. based. So I'm assuming that their customer base will also be U.S. based. So I'm just curious to see how this is all going to work with like the AML KYC type thing. That's like kind of the unique thing that Worbly's doing, is all of their users are completely KYC verified, and that's why they're able to interact with the finance. They're supposed to be like the financial district of EOS.io, because they're able to interact with traditional finance companies.
I think this would be a good test for Worbly. I think they're definitely not required to build on Worbly like some people have been saying, because they can just put KYC at the dApp level and say, hey, in order to sign up for the bank, you need to go through KYC. But to your point, with Worbly already having built-in KYC, it would be easier for them to onboard customers, I think, when they're already approved and they know who they are. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, so that's big news. So that came out, and if you remember, I think it was last week I mentioned it, that at the Hackathon in San Francisco, Novogratz himself was kind of teasing that they had multiple announcements coming out. And 2 or 3 weeks ago, we saw the Mythical Games announcement, which was huge. And watch back, I think, episode 36 to see that. That was awesome. And then now, 2 weeks later, we're seeing a freaking online bank. Yeah, and this is something like, I know Block One set out to decentralize everything, but I thought it would be a while until we got a bank that was actually owned by the people that deposited the bank. So this is way above what I ever expected to see, especially this early. And then don't you remember on last week's show, we showed a message from Shane from SVK Crypto, and he was teasing an investment announcement in 10 days. And I don't know what day he posted that, but it's been almost 10 days. So it's been almost 10 days. Yeah, if you're watching this, maybe during the time that you're editing this, Zach, the funding announcement has already come out and you can overlay it. But if not, it should be very, very soon. So everything's coming together. We've been preaching about just give it time. Everything's going to hopefully work out. But we've been optimistic this entire time. We've got trolled for it many of times for being too optimistic. Oh, yeah.
But everything's coming together, and let's play the Bloomberg clip of Brendan Bloomer one more time where he's saying it's all going to come together in Q1 2019.
With your company as well, how much do you have conversations with the big global banks in terms of integrating blockchain into the already established international financial system?
Well, we're still in the stage of doing a lot of awareness with these financial institutions. As I mentioned, our new group president was the former CFO of Commonwealth Bank. So we do have a lot of expertise in the organization that's taking a look at kind of the technology that we've been building and how it can, relay over into their core banking software. So some of those discussions are happening, but a lot of the banks are still in the early stages of understanding how they can maximize this technology and to move them to the next generation.
Sure, but in terms of how you're actually going to use the money you've raised so far, do you have a roadmap that you're sharing with investors?
Yeah, so we've shared, like I said, the first $1 billion of capital into EOS VC. The primary bulk of it is really designed to use as investment into developers building on the EOS.io application itself.
Yeah.
The first commitment of $1 billion is what we've made public. However, we haven't limited our involvement to that, first capital. There's no need to overfund those programs in the early years.
Yeah, and in terms of investors, I mean, Bloomberg has reported that you're winning funding from Peter Thiel, Jihan Wu. Can you confirm that?
Yes, we can confirm that. Right. We did a strategic round a little bit a couple months ago, and this technology is really a platform that allows us to start to disrupt some of the large centralized technology platforms today, and these are leaders in that space. And our next plans will make it in terms of what we build on the application ourselves. It'll become a little more apparent why we chose the investors that we have.
Okay, and when are you planning to release that information?
Hopefully at the end of this year or early next.
Okay.
Yeah, so as you can hear, I mean, he's talking not only about, ramping up at Block 1, just sort of taking that to the next level, but even goes on to mention, I believe it's in this video clip, about when Block 1 is going to release their own product. So this could be the wallet, it could be their social media network, maybe it's something totally different that we haven't even thought of yet or haven't even been teased of it all. But early next year is when a lot of this stuff is going to start kicking off. So it's no surprise to me that, the VCs are finalizing some deals. We're going to see a lot more of those coming out very, very soon. And then in addition to that, Block 1 starts coming out with their app, starts coming out with Rex and other software updates to fix CPU and make the chain more scalable. Like, it's all really starting to kick off now. And it's so exciting. EOS has been exciting from day one. It seems like there's always something new happening. But right now, especially, I feel like we're right on the verge of just the sky opening up and just, Block 1 news and EOS VC news just raining down on us. So I'm so excited.
I got a troll behind me. Hold on. What do you want?
What are you boys doing in here?
Oh, God.
Oh, boy. We have a convicted felon coming on the podcast here.
We've got a
round table came in.
Convicted felon.
To give you a visit.
Oh, yeah? What do you want?
I want 1,000 EOS.
Rob, he says he wants 1,000 EOS. He says it's coming.
It's coming?
But
you can't hear him, but he says it's coming.
It's not on its way yet because it's not December 31st, 2018. So you got to wait a little bit.
December 31st yet. He's got some time.
You're right. There is a time for a rebound here.
And now get the hell out of here.
Okay. All right. Later, guys.
Later, Q. All right. That was interesting.
Yeah, we got a lot of fans, some haters, some people who are on the fence.
Got some haters, a couple haters.
Welcome them all. We welcome them.
But to get back on topic, there's amazing things going on right now in the EOS.io ecosystem. Oh, yeah. So we've got the partnerships that are being teased all start making sense. We're seeing these partnerships being announced. So when Brendan Bloomer recorded that Bloomberg thing, that was during the San Francisco Hackathon at the beginning of November. This Galaxy Digital deal was already in the works, and that's why Novogratz is kind of teasing it in some of the social events. So he already knew about all these partnerships whenever he's mentioning that. So it's all coming together, and we just came out of the Global Hackathon series, just ended. Why don't we kick into that for a little bit? So we talked about EOS VC, but on top of EOS VC, we had this Global Hackathon series, and congratulations to Gene EOS, who actually won the finale last week. Did I say it wrong?
Yeah, I believe it's Gene OS. So it has EOS in the name, but they pronounce it Gene OS, like operating system. But
my
anyway.
Apologies, everybody, because I only read the press release. But they won the $500,000 grand prize. Ooh. So this was the finale of a hackathon that went to 4 different cities, 4 different continents, all over the world, including a virtual one, in addition to that, in Africa. And then the finals were in Cape Town, South Africa. So we actually talked to Rob Banke from Team NouGit. He's actually on vacation with his wife right now, so we're not going to have him on video. He doesn't have a good Wi-Fi connection, but why don't we give him a call?
Yeah, let's see if we can get him to answer here. Oh,
hey there.
There he is.
He's here.
Hey.
Rob, what's going on?
Hey, I'm doing well. Yeah, happy to be here. What's going on with you?
Yeah, thanks for answering our call. We're on Everything EOS podcast right now, and just kind of wanted to get your perspective of the hackathon, the grand finale that just happened in South Africa. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So yeah, the hackathon was an absolutely incredible experience. Yeah, I mean, what can I really say about it? So day to day, well, let's take a step back here. So basically, anyone that's been following any of the former EOS hackathons, so, including the 5th hackathon, which was the virtual one in Africa, there's a first, second, third place winner, as well as a social impact award and a couple of other awards. Now, this one was very interesting. It's kind of like throw everything you know about the other hackathons out the window. This one was, so first of all, this is winner takes all.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
No first, second, none of that. Just, all right, we know that, we know the teams are badass, but, there can only be one Highlander, right? So they just chose one.
So what was it like, man? It had to have been an incredible experience.
Yeah, all right. So first, it was a week-long incubation. So day one, you're thrown into a little bit of a, what do you call it? Introduction. Actually, okay, so day one, they didn't even do an orientation. Day one, you step in. We got this amazing presentation by this guy named Mike Horn. So Mike Horn, I didn't know anything about walking into it, originally from South Africa, and he is and was a professional explorer. So this was definitely one of those, hey, this is like a teamwork, team building, like pump you up, get you ready. But this guy was the first person ever to, I guess the word is traverse the North Pole during the winters. So this guy was dealing with a month straight of like -40, -60 degrees Celsius, mind you, weather. And so he just, he explained sort of how he got through it, how he pushed past it. So everyone, all I can say is typically I roll at stuff like this. I was super pumped afterwards. And a lot of people are just like, all right, let's go. Let's get ready. And so it was a great talk. We then did an orientation. And basically it started essentially like this. You're going to get your teams together. And tomorrow, first thing, you're going to pitch to all the judges that are Block One, and the organization that puts on the hackathons called Angel Hack. So it was none of, So it was none of the judges that are around for the final day, but it was basically like you're thrown into the ring immediately, basically, so you can fall on your feet, so that you can fall on your butt a little bit for the first day. And just start picking up the pieces and rebuilding, refining. So really what this was I struggle, and I'll say this, even though it has hackathon as the label, this ultimately really felt like a business plan, incubation, execution strategy, competition / incubator, because none of these teams that went through this week-long process, like all of them are prepped and ready to actually now go off and start building, doing a capital raise, doing what they need to do to become proper companies after this. And so let's see. So, I mean, day one, it was that. Day two, well, let me take a step back too. You have most of the Block One team. So you have a lot of people from EOS VC. You have a lot of familiar faces that are like part of the developer relations from Block One. You had the Angel Hack team. And then you had a couple other mentors that were around. I was only at the San Francisco Hackathon, but I saw a lot of very familiar faces from mentors that were there as well. And then basically every day, I mean, I'm telling you, man, this was, 8 a.m. till 10 p.m., just nonstop. go for a couple days. And while I am absolutely still exhausted from the situation, it was probably one of the best things. It was really one of the best things ever.
So you got there on day one, you get a motivational speech, you go to bed, you wake up at 8 a.m. local time there, which who knows what time that is in your brain, and then immediately have to start pitching your project day two, first thing in the morning.
Yep, exactly.
Wow.
That's crazy. So you mentioned, the goal of this, it was really more of an incubator, like, hey, let's put together your business plan. Now you can go out and raise money. Is that in the cards for NouGit? Are you guys looking to actually develop this further and turn it into a real business with a real business model that can generate revenue?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So with NouGit, things, I don't want to say things happen for a reason, but timing was definitely playing a critical perspective here with all of our team members being in sort of the right place and right time. With us over at NouGit, after this whole experience, we are absolutely going to be going out and building this.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Are a lot of the other teams going to do that, you think, that were there?
This is just my personal opinion. But my personal opinion is that we'll likely end up seeing somewhere like 60-40. I think 40% of the companies from there will end up actually growing and building. And I would probably say 60 might not. But what's really interesting about the incubation week, even though there was a lot of competition, there was probably more so collaboration. And some of the people, look, like there are just one of the things I always strive to do is surround myself with people that are drastically smarter than me. And I felt like that was accomplished at this thing because there's just such drastically smart people. Huge shout out to companies like EOS Shield. They are one of the brightest, smartest couples I've ever, had the experience of working next to. The winners of the hackathon, GeneOS, they won for a reason. This is a truly impactful concept. They're kind of taking the concept of 23andMe, flipping it on its head, trying to drive passive income to the everyday person that otherwise a company like 23andMe is kind of like screwing over by reselling their data. So they would obviously pitch it a lot better than I would, but I think they took home the prize, I think, because not only did they have probably one of the top pitches, but I think they really tugged at the heartstrings of the judges that were there, sort of around, just around their entire concept.
So you got to watch everyone else's pitches?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. So let me set the scene here for you. After several days of refinement, the final day was basically set up like this big U shape. And then basically the two sets of judges, 3 and 4 people, go around in this semicircle. And, it's like probably 4 to 5 straight hours of just hearing people's pitches twice. We had to pitch it twice. So, we pitch it to the first group of judges, which is nerve-wracking enough, and then you have to wait another hour and a half and then re-pitch it again and get a whole nother set of sort of Q&A and questions. And so throughout that whole process, you hear everyone else's pitch. And, that's what got me excited about, sort of being around these very sharp projects. Because, look, let me just go ahead and throw this out there. It was very much so sort of like a blockchain use case competition almost, because, you have guys like IDPass that are throwing, IDs on the blockchain. You have SmartPass, which is kind of like doing smart contracts. They're trying to do WordPress for smart contracts. on the blockchain. There's a real estate play on the blockchain, solar energy for all of Africa on the blockchain. So this was, you had some really sharp teams, but are you still there? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. So you had some really smart teams, but ultimately the judges were really looking for like sort of a critical use case that I think they really wanted to push on.
So
and
what
for
was
us,
the judging like, man? Like, was it intense? Were they harsh? Were they nice?
So I think they asked. I think the answer to that question is yes, no, maybe for every team. I think some teams didn't get asked any questions whatsoever, which can either be really good or really bad. And then some teams just got grilled pretty extensively. And what's interesting about this is, these are proper VCs, so they're going to ask all the real questions, and really start trying to poke holes. And yeah, so I think some of them were pretty harsh. But when I say the word harsh, I just mean direct. And like, how is this going to work? And then you have to explain that.
Right.
You can't really. They were real VC questions coming from real VCs, so I think they were proper. They want to make sure that not only is it the right use case, but are you the right team to execute on this use case as well?
Definitely. Well, and that makes sense. I mean, they're asking these questions almost in a qualifying way as well, I think, because EOSVC, you mentioned a lot of them are there. They're really using this, I think, to fund other teams, in addition to the people who won, obviously, GNOS with the $500,000 prize. But, NouGit may be something that if you guys are pursuing, EOSVC now, you guys having already pitched to them, they already know who you are. You guys may have an opportunity to go in and actually get funded by them to continue this project. So it makes a ton of sense that they're, asking those real fundamental questions.
Yeah, the opportunities are immense after the San Francisco Hackathon, as well as this. Just the amount of, community interest for our project NouGit, and just, it's something that's resonating. Any developer that I bring it up to, hey, we're going to, decentralize as well as incentivize open source software development. They're like, oh yeah, no, good. I've been wanting that, and we'll move over when it's ready. It's like, okay. So
absolutely. I think
really, yeah.
The market that you guys have, like the market potential for what is basically a decentralized and incentivized GitHub, it's just enormous. Anybody James and Ross, our two tech guys at Cypherglass, have both expressed, their hatred for Microsoft acquiring GitHub and now owning everybody's repos. So the fact that you guys are building something that can actually challenge them, I think you will have potentially hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people switching over to use your platform once they know that they have that real decentralized alternative that, Big Brother doesn't own. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to sort of use this moment to simply say that over at NouGit, we are actively seeking top tier developers. If you are an awesome developer, back end, front end, doesn't matter. If you are, if you have open source in your heart and you're absolutely on the top of your game, please get in touch with us over at NouGit. We need all the help we can to build out this platform at this point and grow our community. So
awesome. So if people are out there listening, where can they learn more about NouGit? How can they follow your journey? Should we follow you on Twitter personally, or do you guys have a company page that people can check out?
Yeah, so now with NouGit, it's nougit.io. So that's nougit.io. We're also on Twitter, and please join our Telegram. That's where our community is living right now. I feel like, at this point, we're going to ask a lot of questions like, hey, where's the white paper? Hey, where's this? Hey, let's,
right.
Tell me this. And, I just have to calmly say, we are officially, I think, 4 weeks old. We just got through this huge round at the hackathon, and we are going to work.
Come on, Rob. I need my airdrop now. Yeah. Where is it? What are you guys doing?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, dude. When airdrop?
We're excited.
When Lambo? When Moon?
Yeah, exactly. So we're excited. We're excited to really start building and hunkering down.
Nice.
So I think I have one final question before we wrap this up. We got to get on to the next topics. Was there any mention of hackathons in the future? Because we expect to see more in 2019. Are you able to tell us any insight into that?
Huge asterisk that I'm not a Block One representative. But that being said, I mean, I think it's extremely likely, and I started hearing rumblings that there would absolutely most likely be more, but of course, I don't know what that means, though. I didn't really probe further. I don't know if it means a whole nother series, if there might be just one more in the future, but it would be. I think everyone at Block One would imagine that it would be very smart to continue doing this. Period.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks for hopping on with us. We definitely appreciate it, and that's a really cool perspective of everything. And I'm excited that you guys are actually moving forward and doing this, because we spoke at the San Francisco one and you weren't really sure, but now like full steam ahead. That's awesome. All right, everybody, be sure to go check out Team NouGit if you are interested. Rob just gave you all the details. The other Rob, of course, it's been interesting to have another Rob on the show. But huge shout out to him for coming on while he's on vacation. Shout out to his wife for letting him hop on and give us that insight. It's pretty interesting. And speaking of insight, Zach, I guess you have found something pretty interesting online related to Block One. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm sick of all these hit pieces from whoever is paying to get these hit pieces published in like
Joseph Lubin from Consensus / Ethereum. God. Yeah,
I'm
He's
just
out there just making it rain.
Oh, so I got so sick of the hit pieces. So yesterday I wanted to put out a hit piece of my own. I made my own little meme. It was like a chalkboard. I'll throw it up on the screen, but it basically called out all of the 2018 blockchain layoffs. So we saw Steemit laid off 70% of their team, ETC Dev 100%, and we'll skip a few, but Consensus, who's like basically our arch nemesis at this point, even though we want everyone to succeed, but I feel like they're behind the FUD, so
absolutely.
It is what it is.
I mean, we know that they're behind the White Block report. They came out and said, like, there's 2 Consensus employees on it. They're the ones that proliferated this across the web. Like, it's very clear that it came from them. I don't think they're denying that at all.
There was actually a hit piece in Forbes. You guys should all check it out. That kind of investigated Joe Lubin and his managerial skill set. Actually,
interesting.
I think I sent you that link, Rob, didn't I?
Oh, is that the one about it was just backed by his billions and nothing else? I think Laura Shane
Yeah,
wrote
but
that.
the interesting thing from that article is that we found out that he's actually Mike Novogratz's college roommate, Joe Lubin is.
Oh, yeah. Weird, like, that's so crazy.
So anyway, back to topic was I needed to go on the Block One careers page yesterday because as part of my meme, I needed to know how many open job positions there were on their careers page. And when on there, I happened to stumble upon the fact that there's a new office location listed that has not been announced publicly. I think this will be the first announcement of it. An office in Los Angeles.
And they have a Hong Kong and Blacksburg office, right? So they have 2 so far.
Well, yeah. So they've always had the Hong Kong and Blacksburg office. I mean, it's been well known. It's been on their website. So like whenever you're going on a careers page, you could usually click like the city that you're wanting to filter the jobs for. So you can click on either Blacksburg or Hong Kong. That's nothing new. But this Los Angeles office was just added literally within the past week, maybe 2-3 weeks.
So they have an entirely new section basically on the website, is what you're saying, like a whole new Block One office. So you'll still have Blacksburg, you still have Hong Kong, but now you'll also have LA.
Yeah, but there's no job positions open for it yet. There's nothing that's been officially announced. Literally, them publishing it to the website is like a quiet, like under the rug announcement that I found, and I'm announcing now.
That's awesome.
I'm always happy to break
news here.
So I wonder what's going on in Los Angeles because strategically it makes sense to have an office in Asia because it's such a huge part of our market. And Blacksburg's where Dan's never going to leave. You won't be able to convince him to leave.
Definitely, yeah.
But Los Angeles is an interesting place to be in the Silicon Beach area. Do you have any speculation around what could be going on there?
It makes a lot of sense. So I talked a lot with the Everpedia guys at the San Francisco Hackathon, and they're also in Silicon Beach in LA. I forget what the actual name of the beach is, but it's kind of referred to as Silicon Beach, like Silicon Valley. But I know for a fact that Everpedia is there, DNA Fund is there, Ikigai, which is kind of alongside DNA Fund in some way, is also there. I believe Sense is there, Sense Chat, which we just did a video on the Cypherglass YouTube channel. There are a lot of blockchain companies, especially EOS companies now. Sense used to be on Ethereum, now moving to EOS. So it's almost like this little EOS pocket in LA of developers and enthusiasts and funds and all these different things. So it makes a lot of sense for them to not only establish a West Coast location by doing this, but to also establish a location where the EOS and crypto community is already thriving.
Yeah, and I kind of speculated this on Telegram with a few people, and one of the things, maybe it's just maybe a marketing arm, because LA's got some of the top marketing companies in the world. So maybe there's some remote workers. I know to work in Blacksburg as a developer, I don't think they allow remote workers as far as I know, unless you're like top tier maybe.
No, they don't. Leo, who used to work for us, who now works for Block One, he got moved to Blacksburg. So they make you go there, which is good because they're going to get way more work done all being in the same place.
So maybe there's a lot of talent that they wanted to bring on, because I've talked to dozens of people who have been to Blacksburg for interviews for different positions within the company. So they're on a hiring spree. I mean, they have 28 plus positions right now, and a lot of these positions they're hiring for more than one. So it's more than 28 positions. It's just they have 28 posted, but some of the jobs they might need like 6 of the people for that job.
Well, and Dan gave us that little nugget. I think we talked about this last week, that they have 100 plus developers now that are working at Block One. So 100 plus, and they're looking to hire tons more. It looks like dozens and dozens. So imagine a year from now, right? It takes them a while to go out and find these people and vet them and interview them and train them, because some of these people don't have any blockchain experience. Maybe they're just a C++ dev that now they have to sort of bring into this world. But imagine, it's only been 6 months since the EOS mainnet launched. Block One has been around, maybe a year longer than that. Imagine another 6 months from now, another year from now, maybe they'll have 200 developers or 300 or 400 all working on all these different things. So it's like so exciting just to think about what is going on in their different campuses.
So that kind of introduces, the EOS privacy channel, formerly known as Shower Coin, Monero EOS, whatever you want to call its history. But Dan was super active in there last night, which was Tuesday night in this case. And I'm just going to read some stuff that he said, and then I'll put it on screen for the people watching on YouTube. He says, "We have people working on Rex, DEX, security, wallet, design, social, hard forks, faster databases, all at the same time." And he says, "Ethereum had 1,000 devs working for years. Block One has had an average of 50 devs for 1 year. Things are accelerating. You just need to give us time to hire, train, etc." And then someone asked him why only 50 devs, and he corrected them and said they have over 100, but it takes time to hire people. I think he meant on average there's been 50, so they might have 100 devs now, but if you average it out over since like the mainnet launch or over the last year, it averaged out to 50. But Dan says, we have over 100, but it takes time to hire people. An organization that hires on average 2 people per week has major growing pains. So that sounds like the pace that they're hiring at is 2 people per week.
Wow.
And this is like a brand new company.
So that's, after another year, we'll have it should be another 100 people that they've hired, 52 weeks in a year. But it makes sense. I mean, he's talking about growing pains. I asked a lot of the Block One employees at the EOS San Francisco Hackathon, like, hey, how are things going at Block One? Everybody across the board said they love it. They're super excited to go to work every day. But from a couple people I heard, hey, it's just the standard startup growing pains. With any startup, you're new. They're figuring out the organizational stuff. They're figuring out how to train all these people. So I think Dan is speaking from the heart here when he says they definitely have growing pains, but they're getting it all resolved. And I'm sure over time they'll be better at scaling.
So a few days ago, Dan also dropped a nugget about the EOS wallet they're working on. You want to kind of touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So he came in. I forget which Telegram was this. Do you know?
No, but that's okay.
Okay, yeah. Anyway,
it was probably the privacy one. Let's be honest. That's where he's active right now.
Right. Yeah. So he jumped into one of the Telegrams and said, somebody asked him, "Hey Dan, how's the development of the Block One wallet going? That's the hardware wallet that should live in your iPhone, be as secure as a Ledger or a Trezor." And he said, "Great. We're working with external devs behind the scenes to prepare their apps for it," which is so exciting because that means. I saw a demo of the wallet in San Francisco, but they made it very clear that, hey, this isn't finished. We're just going to show you the fact that we can sign a transaction with our face from the secure enclave. And that was awesome to see. I'd never seen anything like that before. But the fact that Dan is saying they're already working with people behind the scenes to integrate with it tells me that it's probably further along than the version I saw in San Francisco. Where, maybe this thing is ready. Maybe they're putting the finishing touches on some of the other features and they're integrating so that when they come out, boom, they have the Block One dApp store or whatever it might be within that wallet that, hey, go play Dice, go play EOS Nights, go play this other game, go play, go bank with good money right in that same app. So there's so much that could be done with this wallet that I'm super excited about. So the fact that Dan is saying they're already integrating with external devs is like, oh my God, I can't wait. Absolutely.
I've noticed there's been a lot of just perusing all the Telegram channels, the dozens and dozens of them. I've seen people like some of the CTOs of different block producers have come in and said, "Hey, I'm in Blacksburg this week. Any recommendations on what there is to do?" And they're like people that I don't foresee them leaving their block producer. But they are developing apps like as the block producer company, and they've been in Blacksburg. So like, what were they there for? What were they meeting about?
Yeah.
Maybe it was to integrate with a wallet. I don't know.
That's so cool. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm just ecstatic for all the stuff that's happening. But the wallet especially, like when that comes out, we got to do a big celebratory show where we got like 10 iPhones and we're signing trends. Like it's going to be so fun. So it's cool.
I know it's all speculation at this point because nothing's been officially announced, but could you just rattle off all of the features that have been almost confirmed by Dan or other people in the community for this wallet? Like with the inner blockchain and everything?
The main feature with the wallet is that there's a secure enclave chip in every single iPhone that was made since Touch ID was introduced. It's been about 5 or 6 years. So if you have an iPhone that's less than 5 or 6 years old, you have what is basically a hardware wallet in your iPhone. So that's number one. Security is paramount. Boom, you can store your coins essentially offline, securely on your iPhone, right in your pocket. But what's cool is what you mentioned. Dan has said that the wallet should work for all EOS chains. So whether it's a side chain linked to the mainnet or it's Warbly that's separate right now but will be linked in the future, you should just be able to have your one wallet and seamlessly, like we've been talking about so much for the past couple months, in order for side chains to work, it needs to be a seamless experience where I have one EOS account and I just sort of seamlessly move around all these chains and don't even really know that I'm moving to a different side chain. Like it just feels to me like one mainnet. So that should be a part of it. Dan has talked about a built-in decentralized exchange as a part of it. He's talked about, potentially a dApp store where you can, just play a dApp, boom, right in the app, right on your phone, just like you would do in EOS Links or one of these other wallets like Meet One, which is another great app. But this should really be a fully featured wallet. When I got the demo at the San Francisco Hackathon, they said, originally our plan was to come out with an MVP, a minimum viable product that just works. Hey, you can sign transactions with your face, you can store it, and then they were going to build up from there. But after getting feedback from the community, they basically went back to the drawing board and said, no. There are simple enough wallets that are out there now from the community. What we need to do is put out a fully featured wallet that works 100%, that has all these new features, that allows you to vote for block producers, allows you to play dApps, allows you to unstake and stake, allows you to do anything you need to do just from within this one wallet. So when this app comes out, this is the place I'm going to be telling everybody to go, hey, make an EOS account here for free, sign up. Now you can do everything right on your phone. So that's what we know about it so far. It'll be interesting to see what features are there at launch. Maybe there's new stuff they haven't teased, but whatever it's going to be, I'm confident it's going to be awesome.
Wow. All of those features, and they're coming sooner rather than later. Like, would you say Q1 is a decent estimate for that? Or
that's my prediction, yeah. I think Q1 we're going to see a lot of stuff. I mean, that's really when Brendan said that we're going to see their first products. So that's probably the wallet first and foremost before they come out with any dApps.
So we're already we mentioned it last week, but we're starting to get a sneak peek of some cross-chain implementations here. So we've already seen the ETH to EOS transfers through both Bancor X and the EOS 21 protocol from block producer Shios. But last week, EOS Dice, or did they change the name just to Dice now, you said?
Yeah, from Bet Dice to just Dice. So Dice now is name of the platform, name of the token, makes it very simple.
So Dice, they recently implemented a feature that uses a middleware tool called BitPy. And what that allows is for USDT, Bitcoin, and Ethereum to be transferred onto the EOS network. And we just got that news for the first time last week. And as of today or yesterday, I think this morning, it's implemented. You can buy it on NouDex. You want to explain that, Rob?
Yeah, so this just went live on BetDice on the 12th. It was technically 11th in the US based on the time zone. But if you can pull the recording up on the screen that I have of all the bets happening, now you can actually use Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Tether, US dollars, on EOS and now in the Dice game. So the way this works is like if I have a Bitcoin that I want to use on EOS, I send my Bitcoin to this address, and then they mint me one eBTC, one EOS Bitcoin, on the actual EOS chain. So then that Bitcoin that used to take me, 30 minutes to get my confirmations, I used to have to pay $1 to send the transaction. Instead, now I can send it instantly in half a second on EOS, and I can send it for free. So what this is enabling is like this whole new world where EOS is almost backwards compatible with all of the legacy chains. So if you're on Bitcoin, you're on Ethereum, you just hold your money in Tether because you're scared of the bear market right now. You can still experience the benefits, the tech benefits, the speed benefits, the low fee benefits of EOS, and really sort of come into the future. And what I think is so cool about this is now we're seeing other people integrate this. There have been other games that have integrated this. But more importantly, I think, is that NouDex, the biggest decentralized exchange on EOS right now, has actually implemented this as well. So you can now trade pretty much any EOS token against EUSD, see the dollar value, but you can also trade eBTC and EETH against EOS on the platform as well. So if you wanted to buy Bitcoin, store it on EOS, you can do it there. If you already have Bitcoin that you want to move over and then sell it for EOS here, you can do that too. So the possibilities with these tokens now on top of EOS, it's pretty amazing. There's going to be a lot of people coming out with support for these stable coins.
Trying to look at the volume, seeing what kind of trade volume it's getting. So do you happen to know the trade volume?
I don't know the specific volume. I do know that it has been picking up throughout the day. NouDex literally just added these today as we're recording this, so it takes a little while for the information to get out there for them to even know. But as people are finding this out, they're going, oh, wow, like now this is a full DEX. And, you know, EOS Finex was talking for a long time about, hey, we're going to have Bitcoin and Ether. It obviously hasn't launched yet, but they were saying they're going to have all those coins on their EOS DEX. And we were going, you know, how are they going to do that? How are they going to have Bitcoin on this decentralized exchange? Well, here's your answer. They're going to use eBTC more than likely, since now that's sort of the one that's getting the network effect on EOS. And that will be the way in which people trade Bitcoin on these decentralized exchanges. So it's just, the tech here is pretty amazing. And when I saw that the video that hopefully you guys are seeing right now of all these bets happening on DICE with Bitcoin, Ether, and USD, it was like just mind blown at like, wow, this is historic, where we've taken Bitcoin for the first time and moved it to another chain. Like that's never happened before, and here we are doing it. Like it's so cool.
Let me give an example of a use case of some person out there that may or may not exist. Their name is Bitcoin Maximalist. They only own Bitcoin, and they understand that EOS is scalable, but they don't want to own it because they think it's a shitcoin. They only want to hold Bitcoin and no other coin. But they keep hearing about this DICE game. It's awesome. And the other games too, but the DICE are the common ones. So what they could do is they could move their 10 Bitcoin to EOS. They could trade it for 10 BTCs is what they're called, right? Yep. And then they're allowed to use those Bitcoins to gamble their brains out on DICE. So they could play DICE. They could play beer. What's that game called? The B? Baccarat?
Oh, Baccarat. The most popular gambling game in Asia. Yes.
So they could play all of these games and just wager Bitcoin. They want to wager a quarter of a Bitcoin every single roll. So then they're either winning or they're losing Bitcoin. And then when they're done playing, they could transfer them back to their Bitcoin wallet. And maybe EOS went down in that time in their Bitcoin pair, and they actually made money that way too. But they're able to completely eliminate the volatility risk of EOS and only hold Bitcoin, or remove volatility risk of all crypto and use US dollar tether.
Yeah, well, and that's what's awesome. Like if you, let's say you made, $1,000 on some recent crypto trade, and you're like, all right, I'm going to take 100 of this and I'm going to go play on DICE just to, test my luck and see what's happening. If you wanted to make sure that you're only betting that $100, you could just sell some of your EOS for EUSD. Boom, you got the EUSD, you're betting on DICE, and you know exactly, the dollar value of what it is you're betting. You place a $5 bet, a $10 bet, $20 bet, whatever. But the fact that that's there now will open this up for a whole new class of gamers who maybe before were a little freaked out about the volatility of EOS or any of these other coins, and now can bet in something they're super familiar with. So now they're really at a point where I think they can challenge huge online gambling sites like PokerStars that are denominated in USD. Now that they have that, it's on. It's going to get real.
Yeah, this has given us a very early glimpse of what's to come, especially after that B1 wallet comes out with all the cross-chain integrations or even a non-BP or non-Block 1 development that comes out. Like, they're not the only ones developing right now. They're just one of many core EOS teams going on right now. So
absolutely.
These gambling games, these online casinos are proving incredible transaction speeds and daily throughput, and they're kind of causing the network to bottleneck. We're seeing some of the worst CPU issues we've seen since the launch. So what's going on here, Rob?
Yeah, so here's what's happening basically is that, we've talked about congestion mode before. So the way EOS works is that if you own 1% of all the EOS tokens, you're always entitled to 1% of the CPU on the network. So, you don't have to worry about it. At any time, you can use 1% of the total throughput of the network if you own that many tokens. But when the network's not really in congestion mode, when it's not being used as much, you can use way more than that 1%. You could use 10% of the network if nobody else is using it. That sort of gives everybody, free CPU that other people aren't using when the chain isn't congested. But when tons and tons of people are using these dApps, last night it went crazy with the amount of volume on DICE just because these new tokens were added. The chain goes into congestion mode. So when it hits 30% of the total chain usage, boom, the chain freaks out. It goes into congestion mode, and no longer do you have that free CPU above your allocation.
Wait, real quick. Is it 30%? I thought it got pulled back to 25%.
It might be 25% now.
Okay.
It's something around there. It's either 25 or 30.
I think so 30% was tested, and then there were like micro hard forks or micro forks or something going on. So
that's right. Yeah,
scaled back to 25%, I believe.
Yeah, people were missing blocks due to the change. So people are working on a fix for that to then allow us to further increase it, because we should be able to increase that to 30, 40, 50% over time and then give more CPU in the short term. But that's basically what's happening. So, if CPU is working fine, it's working fine. Suddenly a rush of new people come in. You got tens of thousands of people trying to bet. And boom, network puts itself into congestion mode, and then all of that free CPU, the amount of CPU above your guaranteed allocation, is taken away from you. So suddenly, boom, you have no CPU, you've used more than your allocation, and you can no longer send transactions. So that's really what we're seeing now. But fortunately, Dan has sort of pinpointed the two primary problems with CPU right now, and those are, as he says, inefficient rental markets, which will be fixed by Rex, and the inability for the dApp owner to provide CPU for their dApp, which will be fixed in an upcoming hard fork on EOS that will sort of allow, DICE, if they want, to just pay for the CPU for all of their users, so they don't even have to worry about resource management.
So that's going to be interesting, because right now what happens if you run out of CPU and you're like in the middle of rolling dice or whatever, it pops up a message that basically says you have inefficient CPU. And then it usually gives you an option to like call CPU emergency or some other service like that. But
yeah,
a free service like CPU emergency delegates CPU, I believe, for your once every 24-hour transaction. But right. I've been seeing in the Telegram channels, and I haven't tested this myself, but that even that's not enough EOS right now to even send a single transaction. So it's really bad right now compared to any other time, I think.
Well, if part of the problem is if you look at some of these dApps, the top people, let's say like the top 10 people betting on any of these gambling platforms, are betting insane amounts of EOS. Some of these people are betting 1 million EOS a day. Obviously, in smaller chunks, they're just doing it over and over again to mine the token or play with variance, where if you bet at a low probability of winning, the variance is crazy. It can actually play in your favor and you can make a bunch of money, or it can play against your favor and you can lose a bunch of money, but they're hoping that it'll play in their favor with the variance. But because of that, these people who have 1 million EOS to go out and bet are obviously staking a significant amount of EOS to themselves. So they're really the only ones that are able to use these platforms when they go into deep congestion mode. But over time, you gotta remember, EOS mainnet has been out for about 6 months. We've increased CPU already several times over, doubled it, and I think doubled it a third time. And we'll continue to do so as necessary, whether it's bringing things out like Rex or other things. But I guess the main thing I wanted to convey is that all of the solutions for these issues are being built right now, and Rex in particular is already feature complete. It's just a matter of putting the finishing touches on it so that we can roll it out.
So I think one of the things with CPU is when it goes into congestion mode, you're actually getting the EOS the CPU that you're actually paying for. The problem is that you're just used to getting way more than you're paying for.
Exactly.
So whenever the system goes into congestion mode, there's probably a lot of whales and mini whales out there who have a couple 100,000 or a couple million EOS staked, probably voting, but they're not actually using their CPU. So whenever the network goes into congestion mode, these people who probably add up to hundreds of millions of EOS are getting their delegated CPU. So let's say it's 15-20% of the network of these types of wallets. That's just a guess right now.
I think it's even more, because Block 1 is included in that as well, where 50 million of their 100 million EOS is in net, so it doesn't really matter because nobody really uses net right now. It's kind of there's plenty of it on the network, but the other 50 million is in CPU. So when we hit congestion mode, 5% of the network, which is a huge chunk, is immediately locked off for Block 1, even though they're not going to use that anytime soon. So people have been asking them to unstake it as CPU and restake as net if possible, but that's basically, what you're saying is a very accurate representation. These giant accounts that are staking but not actually using it are the ones that take it all up in congestion mode.
So once the Rex is implemented, there's going to be like an educational phase that we got to basically get the message out via this podcast, other podcasts, Telegram, Block 1 themselves. But we have to get the message out that these people, whales we'll call them, or businesses, investment funds, whatever they are, we need to explain to them what the Rex is and how they could actually make more EOS, make profits, which everyone loves profits, by doing so. And what that's going to allow is we're going to have these hundreds of millions of EOS tokens that are going to be available to lease or rent through the REX, instead of them just, when the network goes into congestion mode, they're just kind of like hogging their CPU and they're not even using it. It's like owning a house and not renting it out.
Exactly. Well, and that's actually happened as a problem in some cities. I think San Francisco was, sort of, that happened too. I think it happened in, I think might have been Hong Kong. Anyway, don't quote me on that, but it's happened in other cities where real estate investment is so high and the returns that people are getting are so high that they go out and buy up a bunch of real estate. They buy a whole building, but then they don't lease it out to people because either they can't afford the rent or they can't find the tenants. So then it just sits empty. And then because of that, they drive up the prices further. And it's kind of what we're seeing with CPU now, with Chintai rates just going up and up and up. And fortunately, that is bringing in more volume, where a week ago, it was hard to lease 100,000 CPU on Chintai real quick at the same rate. Now it looks like you can actually do that. So there are more whales waking up to the fact that they can make 0.5% on Chintai. They can make a smaller percent OTC with like a CPU emergency and keep the EOS in their wallet. So people are waking up, and I think over time, to your point with education, it'll get better.
And for those watching, and if you haven't used Chintai yet and you don't really use your EOS for much, you're mostly just holding it, you could use Chintai. Right now, you could lease your CPU for just 7 days and get a 25% APR. That doesn't mean you're going to make 25% gains. You got to divide that over 52 weeks. I don't know what that works out to.
It's about 0.5%.
But you could make a 0.5% gain with really very low counterparty risk, if any.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you have 1,000 EOS, you leased out for 7 days, you make another 5 EOS for free, basically for doing that. And you can see where that gets crazy, where if you have 10,000 EOS and you lease it out, you make 50 EOS. If you have 100,000, you make 500. So it really, your incentive, the more EOS you have, the higher the incentive you have to lease it out. And I think Rex will only further that with having this, one marketplace where you don't have to send your tokens to someone else like Chintai and deal with the counterparty risk. You can just sort of keep it all in your wallet. So I'm pretty excited about that.
So all of these solutions, they're coming, but they're not here today. So I want to kind of demo the ZKS token so that people can kind of see, because I've actually showed 3 or 4 people in the office that this exists and that everyone with an EOS wallet already owns 31 of them that have been airdropped.
Yep.
So I'm gonna just do a screen share here, but basically ZKS is a token that is good. Whenever you redeem 1 ZKS token, it's good for 0.9 CPU and 0.1 net for 3 hours. So it's basically...
And that's 0.9 EOS, right?
9 EOS, yes.
Okay.
So,
and it's available on NouDex if you want to buy more, but I'm not even saying to buy more yet. Just try it out with your 31 you've been airdropped. So if you're low on your CPU, as long as you have enough CPU for just 1 transaction, you can go to zks.1, and then you basically just log in with your scatter, and then you tell it how many ZKS tokens you want to redeem. Everybody listening to this has 31 ZKS tokens. So what you could do is you could delegate. Let's say you want to delegate all 31. What that does is it's equivalent to you staking 31 extra EOS tokens and putting 10% of it towards net and 90% of it towards CPU. So for the next 3 hours, you could probably play a lot of extra hands of dice or a lot of extra moves on EOS Nights or whatever game you're playing. Or if you want to make a couple trades on NouDex, you'll be able to do that. And it's dirt cheap on NouDex. So if you're one of those people running the auto bot roller things on dice and trying to mine them, and you're probably one of the reasons the network's clogged up. But if you're running into CPU issues, for right now, I don't know the exact calculation, but I wrote here in my notes, 1 EOS, which is like $2 right now, can get you 1,500 EOS worth of net and CPU at a 90-10 ratio for 3 hours.
Oh, so, wow, that's way cheaper than I expected.
Yeah, so let's say you only have 10 EOS and you're just like a little minnow here. You could spend 1 of your EOS for $2 and have the equivalent stake as someone with 1,500 for 3 hours. But it's a really cool service, and I don't think a lot of people know about it, so that's why I wanted to explain it to people. There's probably going to be more services like that come out in the future, but as you just have to make sure that you use it before you run out of that one last final transaction, because that's... I think the biggest issue right now is once someone runs out of CPU, they can't even make the transaction to stake more CPU with their non-staked EOS. That's kind of the big frustrating point right now, is they can't even stake more because that one transaction costs more than they have, so they have to wait for their cooldown over 72 hours to be able to stake more.
And that's something where,
when the
fix we mentioned earlier. Exactly. When the dApp can stake for you, whether that's a dApp like ZKS or Chintai or something else, Chintai could say, hey, I know you're at max CPU usage right now. Hey, we'll stake for you to pay for this one transaction for you to then lease from Chintai. So that opens up a whole nother world of possibilities and gets people out of that weird spot where they get stuck with no CPU and not enough CPU then to actually stake for more, whether they own the EOS or not.
That is exactly what I foresee happening. Imagine in the background there's a smart contract and you're in the middle of playing Knights or Dice or Nudex or whatever, and it's just going to alert you, hey, you are completely out of CPU. You can't do anything else. How about we charge you like a fraction of an EOS and then we'll delegate you some bandwidth, and we see you have liquid EOS, so we want to spend some of that to buy some ZKS. In the same smart contract, we're going to redeem that ZKS, and now you have 1,000 EOS worth of staked tokens for 3 hours. And if the dApps are smart, they'll see who their VIP rollers are and they'll give it to them for free. They won't even make them go through that process. They'll just auto delegate every time they see their CPU running low. If it's a frequent user, it's just going to auto delegate for them, because that way it takes all the friction away from the user. It could be all automated on the other end.
Some sites like Dice are doing that now. I know, where they're delegating, saying, hey, if you're ever going to roll this many times, we'll give you the free CPU. But it's really a manual process right now, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, it
so
is.
The ability to just let your smart contract do it all automatically is like, okay, now they can offer that to all of their users if they want, or they can offer it to just ones above a certain betting tier. Like, they can sort of program in how they want it to dish out CPU. And what I think is cool about this is that it's not just like it allows the dApp to delegate you CPU so that you can make the transaction. This actually, you could have an account maxed out of CPU, you have no EOS staked, and then the dApp pays for your CPU. So it's not like they have to delegate and then you pay for the transaction. They're just paying their CPU to the transaction right away. So in the future, you could have an EOS account, no EOS staked, and still use dApps just fine, because you don't actually need to have any stake to use them. So it's going to be really cool to see, and I think takes us one step further where we need to be, where people don't even really have to worry about the ins and outs and the intricacies of a blockchain, and they can just focus on using the dApps.
Yeah, and so what you explained, how it's a manual process to delegate the CPU, it is.
Yeah.
That was one of the features of CPU Emergency, which I'll actually just, I got the CPU Emergency shirt on right now, rocking it.
Nice. That's awesome.
It says, use our or what's it say? CPU Emergency, use our CPU, not yours. With a big Texas logo. I didn't realize they were from Texas until I got this shirt in the mail. But
that's awesome.
Like I said, whenever you run out of that last transaction, that's when you're really screwed, because there's nothing you could do to even stake more. So, and it's not available right now because even CPU Emergency is tapped out. But typically, whenever we're not crazy congested, if you run out of that one last transaction, the guys from CPU Emergency and their Telegram channel, if you actually go in there and you're not spamming them or being too crazy about it, you could tell them that you're having a CPU emergency and ask them to delegate you a minimal amount of CPU just so that you could stake more EOS. So you're basically doing it off chain. You're communicating with them in Telegram off chain, and then they're able to use their CPU to delegate you more CPU, and they're the ones transacting and not you. But it is a manual process. It's not scalable, but it will be scalable in the future with these upcoming releases we're supposed to see in January, I believe.
Yeah, and I think the final thing I want to just say to sort of close out the CPU section is that this is not the way it's going to be forever. From a CPU congestion standpoint, but also from a user standpoint, 6 months from now, users may not even have to worry about resource management at all, and not even really have to manage their EOS account at all. They just kind of manage it within their Block One wallet or manage it within a dApp itself. So this is all getting to the point where, if you think of 2018 or you think of the current single-threaded implementation of EOS, I kind of consider it a beta in a lot of ways, where once we get multi-threading, once we get these new features, the usability aspect really comes in, and then boom, suddenly a user can get set up just like they would get set up on Facebook with any other dApp. So it's going to be cool. Just want to let people know this is sort of the initial version. It will not always be like this where you have to worry about CPU. It will get much, much simpler in the near future. So don't worry about it.
All right, so we're kind of running long. So we have a few topics. Well, one major topic I want to cover, then we'll close out here, Rob. So updates on the referendum vote. So we talked about this a week or two ago, how there was a proposal for the block producer community to approve the vote to implement the referendum. And at the time, it had about 3 votes. And then I've noticed that a second proposal was made on top of that. What changes were made between those proposals, and what's the status of it currently?
I'm actually not sure. My understanding was the reason why they put it back up again was just to sort of reset the extension, because a lot of people didn't know about it before it was going to expire. So I think they were just giving people like extra time to review it. But it's the same exact proposal as before, where it's basically just changing the official, it's making an official forum account on the chain so that people know, okay, this is the official referendum contract, and they don't get confused by like people trying to scam or whatever, But it looks like they only need 4 more now, which is great news because last time I think we only had 4 voting. So we only need 4 more block producers out of the top 21. It could be Bitfinex, CoChain, EOS Bixen, Huobi, EOS IOSG, EOS Lao Mao, EOS Liquid EOS, Jetta, Start EOS, or ZB EOS. We need 4 of you guys to approve this proposal to get that piece in there so that we can then move forward with referendum, which then will let us move forward with Rex, which then will let us move forward with all these other things. So this is a crucial piece. If you know those block producers, if you're in their telegrams that I just mentioned, go on out, tell them, hey,
get on
please approve the EOS.io forum proposal on eosauthority.com/approval. Do it, please. We need it for the health of the network and for the future of EOS.
I think that's a good spot to wrap up here, actually.
Awesome.
This is the second week in a row we ended it with a motivational Rob speech. I love it.
That's great. Yeah.
Did you see SVK Crypto? They tweeted it out. They had it timestamped to your motivational speech. From
I thought that was awesome.
Loved it.
They had those great photos from the event that I spoke at there in London. So it was cool with the whole thing they tweeted out. I retweeted both of them. So thanks to those guys.
So any last remarks here, Rob?
I think the last thing I'll say is just, continue focusing on the positive. I've moved Blockfolio. I have not deleted it from my phone, but I've moved it to my furthest away home screen so that I really don't check it most days at all anymore and just have dApp Radar, boom, bookmarked on my home screen so I can go there and see, all the positive EOS stats. So just keep doing that, keep building, and we'll keep going with EOS.
Yeah, guys, just stay positive. Big things are coming. Things are being built. Just because you don't hear an announcement every day doesn't mean it's not happening. It is happening. Like Rob said, if you're in any of those Telegram channels, you can go to EOS Authority also, and you can see who all has approved it and hasn't approved it. Hopefully, it is my hope before this airs tomorrow night that this actually has been approved and is activated. It's my hope that that's the case. But if it is not, please, everyone listening to this, go out and reach out to any block producer who has not voted yet to implement the referendum, because a lot of things are waiting on referendum. It's been months and months of work leading up to this point, and it's almost here, and I can't wait for referendum. So we'll finish up on that. This is it for episode 39. Once again, I'm Zack Gall.
I'm Rob Finch.
And this is Everything EOS.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah. All right, man. I think we killed it.
All right. Yeah, that was great. I'll stop the camera.